Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Put on a happy face because all the Hollywood trades are reporting that they're working on Joker 2. That's right, there will be some sort of sequel in the next couple of years, so I'll explain what's going on. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming up, and we're doing a DC merch giveaway. All you have to do to enter that is be a subscriber and leave all your predictions about Joker 2 on the video. So we'll just break this down top 10 style. Obviously, careful for spoilers from the first Joker movie if you haven't seen that yet, but because it just made $1 billion, I'm assuming that most of you watching this video have already seen the movie. So number 10, what just happened? The Joker movie just made over $1 billion at the box office, making it DC Comics' most profitable movie of all time and the highest earning rated R movie of all time worldwide. So no surprise that this week there were reports from a couple different Hollywood trades that Warner Bros. Is looking to do Joker 2 with Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix. Now there are a couple conflicting reports about what stage of development that sequel is in and what things are looking like behind the scenes. But number 9, where is Joker 2 actually at in terms of development? So on a scale of them asking Todd Phillips to start pitching Joker 2 ideas to their filming it being like the maximum, based on what different reports are saying, it sounds like Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix, and Warner Bros. Are just starting to talk about what Joker 2 might be. There was a clip that I posted right after the movie came out where Joaquin Phoenix had started to talk about what a sequel might be, slowly being interested in it, because typically he's not an actor that does sequels. So before the movie came out, when they were just doing early press on it, people just assumed that this was going to be the only Joker movie. It was going to be a one and done. Up to that point, Todd Phillips had also been kind of non-committal about what's going on after this. What were you going to do if this movie's successful? He just hadn't talked about it a lot, so there wasn't a lot of information about what he was thinking. So that clip was from about a month ago, right after the movie hit theaters, and Joaquin Phoenix then said behind the scenes while they were making the first movie, they did start to talk a little bit about what they might do if they did a sequel, but at the time they hadn't committed to doing anything. Nobody had signed any contracts for potential sequels. All the stuff that they had done was just for this one movie. Number 8, this morning, as part of all this Joker 2 sequel talk, the Hollywood trades were also reporting that Warner Bros. Will develop more DC Black Label movies about their big villain characters. Regardless of what happens with Joker 2, I think we all expected when this movie came out that it seemed so big that they would eventually try it with another Batman villain or another Justice League villain. The only thing I would qualify this statement with is that they're probably not going to do any villains that are currently being used by Matt Reeves in his Batman movie coming up in 2021, at least right away. So I'll explain which ones are probably off limits for at least the next few years, because there are a lot of Batman villains showing up in that new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. But number 7, it should go without saying that whatever Joker 2 winds up being in these other DC Black Label movies with DC villains, they'll still be relatively small. They only spent about $50–55 million making the Joker movie, so maybe that budget goes up just a little bit, but one of the only reasons why Todd Phillips was allowed to make Joker in the first place, he said, was because the budget was so small, the risk was so low to Warner Bros. That means that the DC Black Label films won't have a ton of crazy special effects or really huge action scenes. Think about the ending of the first Joker movie. It seemed like a big scene, but relatively speaking, it was small compared to what you would see in a traditional, say, Superman movie like Man of Steel. Number 6, early production and release date. So if things don't fall apart during early development, I think Joker 2 probably wouldn't happen for at least 4 more years minimum, because even though there are a lot of conflicting reports about where they're at with this Joker 2 movie, Todd Phillips said that he wasn't going to do a sequel just to cash in on box office profits. He wouldn't do it until he found a story that resonated as much as the story of the first Joker movie. All that is code for we're not going to be doing anything right away, so give him a good solid 4 years before you hear anything about Joker 2 actually coming out. We're talking 2023. By that time, Marvel will have already done their Fantastic Four movie. They'll be talking about doing their first X-Men movie inside the MCU just as a benchmark. Aquaman 2, for example, also not happening till 4 years after the first Aquaman movie came out. Now, there's a number of reasons why that's happening with that franchise, because the Aquaman franchise is way more overtly commercial than the Joker movie. But getting into story predictions and characters based on what they've said and where they leave the character at the end of the first Joker movie. So number 5, Joker 2 should still be a relatively small, self-contained movie with the Joker still thinking himself a hero of the people. Like the mob of all the Joker masked people lifting him up at the end of the first movie, celebrating him. So he feels like the hero of his own movie, even though you can never really trust his perspective. What's real, what's fake, what's just happening inside of his head. In order to do that, though, you need to either find someone who's worse than the Joker or pit him against the establishment again, the voice of authority, or heroes that traditionally represent the establishment. Law and order versus the chaos of the Joker, and using the Joker's perspective shifts just make it seem like whoever the hero or whoever the character you put in the movie against him is the real villain, whether or not they're an actual villain from DC Comics. But you also continue to play with the idea of what's real and what's fake and what's only happening inside of his head. Number 4, of course we should say that there'll still be no Batman in his sequel movie, mostly because Todd Phillips said that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker would never cross over with Robert Pattinson's Batman. This is the clip where he says that.
Robert Pattinson was just cast as Batman. I know this is a totally different movie, but do you see those two worlds merging together anytime soon?
No.
Thank you.
Definitely not.
I'm choosing to take him at his word when he says that, even though I do think that Matt Reeves will eventually use a different version of the Joker inside his new Batman trilogy. The Joker is not supposed to appear in the first new Batman movie, the Long Halloween one that they're doing June 2021. So even though they try not to double down on different types of villains on screen at the same time, eventually you will start to see different DC Black Label characters showing up that you've already seen in the mainstream DC films. I do think it's possible for them to do a darker version of Batman within the DC Black Label films, but if they're trying to do a new trilogy of Batman films with Robert Pattinson, I don't think that they would allow multiple versions of Batman to show up on screen, and so that's another 6 to 7 years minimum with Robert Pattinson before you can use another version of Batman somewhere else. So number 3, because they're also going to do other DC Black Label villain movies and mostly avoiding characters Matt Reeves is using, at least for right now, that means no Riddler, no Two-Face, no Catwoman, and no Penguin. But for the most part, pretty much anyone else is on the table, which is why, thinking about the Joker pitting himself against symbols of authority, it would be cool to see them start doing a version of Lex Luthor inside the DC Black Label universe. So number 2, talking about Superman a little bit, Henry Cavill just did an interview saying that he still wants to be Superman in DC Universe, but aside from a few rumors about Man of Steel 2, it doesn't seem like there'll be another Superman solo movie for at least 3 to 4 years, which means they're free and clear to recast a new version of Lex Luthor for the separate DC Black Label universe that isn't connected to Justice League or the Jesse Eisenberg version of Lex Luthor. We just kind of wipe that clean, don't have to worry about that version of Lex Luthor anymore. But instead of doing a Lex Luthor origin story right off the bat, you introduce him as the antagonist of another Joker movie trying to take control of Gotham City after the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne. Power abhors the vacuum, Gotham is in chaos during the Joker movie, Lex Luthor's alignment is staunch, lawful evil. He loves imposing his own sense of order on things, and the Joker is all about chaos. Lex Luthor is probably the most high-profile DC villain available outside of the Joker that works on that level. He doesn't have any special powers, you don't need to use big special effects, he just has his evil genius intellect and his desire for more power. So number 1, if things work out long-term and they can introduce a version of Lex Luthor inside a Joker movie or the DC Black Label universe, then you can spin him out into his own solo movie after that and do a President Lex storyline from the comics. The story of how Lex Luthor became President of the United States, they even did a version of that on Smallville in the alternate future of that show. You just see Michael Rosenbaum show up in the finale wearing this white suit after having just been elected President of the United States. The other bonus of taking that approach with the Lex Luthor character is that you can also reintroduce Henry Cavill's Superman as one of his villains during a future Lex Luthor movie if things work out long term. Now, Superman isn't a villain, but if the movie is being shot from Lex Luthor's perspective, he sees Superman as a villain, Superman would be the antagonist of that film. Right now, there's no official word on what the future of Superman at DC is, other than they will use the character in other upcoming movies eventually, and eventually do a new solo Superman movie. For those of you that really want Henry Cavill to come back, best odds short term for Henry Cavill coming back are probably through a Black Adam sequel, because Henry Cavill's management team is $7, and that's the company that The Rock owns. His ex-wife runs that company, so they are best buds, and Henry Cavill is one of the few actors that has the physique to seem like a threat to The Rock's Black Adam. In fact, a couple of years ago, The Rock actually reached out to Boss Logic, who does a lot of fan art, and asked him to draw a picture of him as Black Adam fighting Henry Cavill's Superman, so it sounds like The Rock really wants to fight Superman in one of his movies. But everyone, post all your Joker 2 theories in the comments below, and I will do more videos about it when we get more details. Right now, I don't have any plans for videos about alternate cuts of Justice League, but if they actually release one that we can watch, then I will totally do a video about that. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. I've got a new Flash, Crisis on Infinite Earths trailer video that I'll post tonight. While you wait for that, click here for all my Joker Easter eggs and ending videos, and click here for my Star Wars The Mandalorian Episode 2 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.